I think you included some new information into your presentation, which I'm not in.
That's right.
So lucky us who are here today. And now Caroline. Thank you very much.
I want to thank everyone this morning, and many of you know that the Turkish government initiated a comprehensive multi-year restoration of the residence and the interior decor about 10 years ago, demonstrating an unwavering commitment to the century-old historic property. The embassy engaged a distinguished team of architects, contractors, conservators, and craftsmen who returned the building to its original grandeur while updating it for the 21st century. I applaud Turkey's foresight and willingness to assure the long-term future of the house and the professionals who invested their many talents in its successful restoration. A number of these dedicated individuals are, I believe, with us this morning, including Aniko Gilshot, Project Director and Interior Designer, Belinda Reeder, Project Architect, Justine Wimsett, Art Conservator, and Julia Brennan, who conserved the late Ottoman silk textiles that surround us. Give a thanks to all of you. If we had time, we would discuss the history of the building of Everett House, the patron Edward Everett and his architect George Oakley Totten Jr., or explore the early diplomatic history of the house, which served as the official embassy and residence for many years. All of these topics you will find discussed in detail in the book. My main focus today will be on some of the distinctive features of the house, which set it apart from other grand Beaux-Arts mansions in Washington, and the early chance connections between Totten, Istanbul, and this building. The interior decoration of Everett House, from the first to last detail, shows careful planning, materials of the highest quality, and superior craftsmanship, standards that were intrinsic to houses built for the very wealthy during the Gilded Age and early 20th century. Parquet and stone inlay floors with intricate designs, soffitted ceilings, and elevators with elaborate architectural metalwork were the givens. But the mansion's monumental Alexandro Allori paintings that flank the double staircase, Tiffany Studio's 5-reel mosaics and leaded glass in the conservatory, and the Ottoman silk wall hangings in this ballroom, all original features of the house, are highly significant in their own right and unique among the grand houses of the national capital. I hope the following remarks will convey some sense of their distinctiveness and offer a new appreciation of their restoration, as we look at some photographs that document their conservation but are not reproduced in the book. Everett's acquisition of Narcissus at the pool and Aeneas fleeing the burning of Troy came by happenstance. In 1909, his middle daughter Mary married Giulio Turi, who lived with his family in the Villa Salviati near Florence. The 9 by nearly 12 feet oil-on-wood panels were painted by the Florentine Mannerist artist Alexandro Allori in the early 1570s for Alemanno Salviati. Salviati had commissioned Allori to decorate the villa during the rebuilding and enlargement of that 11th century fortress overlooking the village of San Domenico. The paintings probably were still in place when the Turis took ownership of the villa in 1902 and were put up for auction in Rome in 1908. It is unclear if the work sold and exactly how and when Everett acquired them, but he must have purchased the paintings before the Washington House interior design was finalized, for their setting in the rich burl walnut provides a handsome, custom-made architectural framework. Narcissus at the pool, inspired by Ovid's Metamorphoses, shows the self-absorbed golden-haired youth falling in love with his reflection, aided by Cupid's faithful arrow. Aeneas fleeing the burning of Troy depicts a pivotal scene from Virgil's epic poem, in which the son of Prince Anchises and the goddess Aphrodite escapes the sack of Troy by the Greeks. With his father on his back and son Ascanius at his side, Aeneas carries the household gods and the sacred fire of the hearth out of the burning city. Alluri's elongated figures, complex twisting poses, and bright saturated colors become Michelangelo's late work, and that of Alluri's primary teacher, the premier Mannerist painter Agnolo Bronzino. The occasional misattribution of the Alluri works to Bronzino derives from the unique relationship of Alluri and Bronzino, who became the guardian of the Alluri family when Alexander was a young boy. Alluri often added his master's name to his own, thereby becoming the second Bronzino. The conservation of the monumental Alluri mythological scenes was done in situ, and you can see the scaffolding in this photograph. Layers of all darkened varnish were removed from the paintings, which revealed Alluri's deft brush strokes and vibrant colors, and his inscription on Aeneas fleeing the burning of Troy, which reads, Alexandro Alluri fecit anno 1574. These masterworks help fulfill Everett's desire to decorate the house with impressive old master paintings, to show his wealth and appreciation for European art. Obviously, their bravura and sheer size must have impressed him. Although Mannerist paintings were not considered on a par with Renaissance works during Everett's lifetime and beyond, time has validated his decision. Today, these paintings are considered major examples of Alluri's work and the Mannerist style, and are fully accepted in the wider sphere of Italian Renaissance art. Moreover, Everett's purchase brought the first Alluri collection to the United States. These and the third Alluri painting that Everett had installed in his Vermont country house remain the prime examples of his work in North and South America. But these are just, outstanding works of art. The commission of Tiffany Studios, New York, to create mosaics and leaded glass windows for the conservatory demonstrates Everett's interest in showcasing contemporary American glasswork. Everett's life work and great wealth had centered on the utilitarian glass bottle and innovations in its design and production. He had patented a device for shaping bottlenecks, employed new methods of glass manufacture, and modernized his plants, even at one point considered establishing a window glass factory. Tiffany's pioneering use of glass to create a wide range of original works of art must have appealed to the bottle king, whose unassuming but essential wares were a mainstay of households and businesses throughout the country. The Tiffany interiors transported the industrialist to a world far removed from business and commerce, while displaying his material status and sophisticated taste. The glass mosaics that decorate the conservatory are exquisite examples of Tiffany's aesthetic, which bridged and transcended the avant-garde trends of the 19th century. They uniquely reflect Tiffany's fascination with Byzantine ornament and his mastery of innovative glass methods. Tiffany Studios' signature opalescent and gold foil-back tesseract shimmer next to cadence shades of vermilion, opal, and aquamarine to form geometric patterns. The mosaic pattern in coloring is replicated in faux work on the conservatory walls and is part of the original scheme, an effect seen in other buildings featuring Tiffany Studios mosaics. The leaded glass windows are exquisite examples of early 20th century art glass, whose overall effect displays a rather modern sensibility. The opaque glass is decorated with borders comprised of a grape and basket weave design arranged around a column of band. The degree of abstraction and stylization of these borders is atypical, but not unprecedented in Tiffany Studios' work. Tiffany's predilections usually turn more to a fidelity to nature and three-dimensional form rather than to abstracted line and form. The custom design probably resulted from a collaboration with the architect George Oakley Totten and Tiffany, which occasionally fabricated the designs of other artists. In addition to its unique union of historicizing elements and modernistic design, the Everett House Tiffany Studios glasswork is unparalleled in Washington. The city's relatively few Tiffany windows are ecclesiastical, and no other glass mosaics have been identified. It is quite possible that the Tiffany Studios metalwork department fabricated the ornate acanthus cast iron double gate located between the conservatory and the ballroom, which you see right under to your right, and some of the furnishings in the conservatory. The conservatory remains a singular example of Tiffany's artistry and the company's only known residential interior in the nation's capital. Last but not least, we turn to the connection between Totten and Istanbul and the features of the house that resulted from this connection. The silk textiles in this ballroom and the dome that defines the conservatory reflect Totten's great admiration for the city he visited the year before he received the commission to design Everett House. In May 1908, at the conclusion of the 8th International Congress of Architects in Vienna, Totten caught the Orient Express to Istanbul. 2 years earlier, President Theodore Roosevelt had brushed aside protocol and elevated the American minister there to the rank of ambassador, despite the Sultan's ongoing refusal to first raise the rank of his minister at Washington. This new standing required an embassy large and impressive enough to reflect the enhanced American status. In 1907, the U.S. purchased the Palazzo Corpi, which became the first overseas property acquired to serve as an American embassy in Europe. Part of the special congressional appropriation was designated to erect a chancery or office building on a site to accommodate a growing staff. Totten got the commission from the ambassador shortly after he arrived in Istanbul. He worked on the chancery drawings, which you can see. The Palazzo Corpi is the large building in the front, and then to its side on the right in the rear is the chancery building that Totten designed. He worked on the drawings and made interior improvements to the Corpi while residing at the embassy during his 6-week stay in the capital. And the U.S. Chancery would mark Totten among the very first to design an overseas building commissioned by the U.S. government. Totten's memories of the art and architecture of Istanbul must have been fresh in mind as the plans for the decor of Everett House evolved, in particular for this ballroom. There are few historical references relating to the room. Everett's and Totten's papers concerning the house have not been located. The one mention of the ballroom by a period newspaper states that the room would be paneled from floor to ceiling in Italian walnut, but the scheme obviously changed. The conservation work revealed that the silk hangings are original to the house. Textile experts believe the silks are mid to late 19th century Turkish tent panels or space separators. Sumptuously decorated tents were an integral part of the ceremonial and recreational trappings of the Ottoman court into the reign of Abdul Hamid, the Sultan, during the time of Totten's visit to Istanbul. The architect must have seen examples of these richly decorated tents while he was in the Ottoman capital and made arrangements to furnish the ballroom with the sumptuous fabric. The embroidered and applique silk textiles show elegant floral bouquets containing more than a dozen genus-specific flowers, including carnations, tulips, roses, and hyacinths. Their semi-naturalistic forms contrasting with the holly stales applique leaves. The various types of flowers that spring from the vases have a long tradition in Islamic art. The painstaking 7-month conservation restored much of the original glory of the textiles, which were in an extremely fragile state. Exposure to decades of water damage and intense heat from the lighting and grime from the furnace had caused extensive dry rot, staining, and incrustation. The reinstalled and disassembled hangings showed numerous repairs and restorations. The conservation team removed a dark overlay and a system of old hanging rings similar to those employed for hanging large Turkish architectural banners, and the coarse burlap backing that supported the silk in heavy embroidery. The textiles were vacuumed, cleaned, and repaired with hand stitching, and then a protective overlay of red or gold netting was applied to the most fragile panels. Whoops. And here's Julia Brennan at work. They stitched a Velcro hanging system along the perimeter of each panel and then packed up everything and sent to climate-controlled storage for several years. In early 2007, they were reinstalled. For Everett House, Totten drew on the treasures of Byzantine and Ottoman Istanbul to convey his client's status and great influence, and to create beautiful interiors. The ballroom is resplendent with the 19th century Ottoman wall hangings, and beyond the campus double gate, the conservatory glows